Or just, yeah, just see what it's like to bring your attention to your breath before we start moving. And often it's a lot easier once we've moved and then we settle with our breathing. So, hi, Sally. So yes, on your backs, hands on the front of your body, just feeling a couple of cycles of breath moving through you. And the first movement I'd like you to start with is just very simply feeling the weight of your head on the floor, and then starting to let your head roll to the right and to the left. So it's very much a sort of easing of your head from side to side. So everyone who's just joined, Sally and Panna, lovely to see you, or not see you in your case, Panna, but lovely you could join us. So that's it, letting your head roll to the right and to the left. Just keeping it very easy, keeping it very comfortable. Find a movement that is enjoyable of the head rolling from side to side. And just letting the muscles of the neck sort of soften and ease out a bit. And from letting your head roll from side to side, then find a place where you can settle your head in the center, so the back of your head settling on the floor. And if your legs are long, you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And then come to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So this is one of our very familiar movements. Just how does it feel to start to let the knees tilt from side to side? And again, you don't have to go very far. If you want to, you can do, but keep it comfortable, keep it easy. Notice how this movement feels in your body. So all of these movements we're going to do lying down are really about mobilizing our rib cage. So hopefully when we come back to feeling our breath, we might feel a bit more going on, possibly. Good. So a couple more times, let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then settle in the center. So it's up to you now. We're going to do a movement for the upper body. So if you're comfortable with your legs long, you could lengthen your legs out on the floor. If it's better for you to keep your knees bent, then keep your knees bent. And just before we move in the upper body, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And just feel the movement of your breath through your body. And then you're going to take your arms up towards the ceiling above your chest, and you're going to make a big circle with your arms and interlink your fingers. So we imagine here that we're holding a big beach ball on our chest. Good. And then you're going to start to rock a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left across your upper back. And let your head roll in the same direction, but not your knees, that's it. So try and leave the lower body where it is. And this is just a movement for the upper body. We're trying to keep our circle circular, so we're not necessarily going very far. We're just rocking a little bit side to side across the upper back. We're letting the head come along in the same direction as the arms. Siobhan, if you interlink your fingers, that's it, good. Good, very nice. And just a little, that's it, carry on. Couple more times. Good, so rocking side to side across the upper back. And then let your arms come down to rest by your sides. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then again, come back to bending your knees, standing your feet on the floor, letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left, and just seeing how that movement feels again. And so it's not necessarily that we can go any further, but maybe it feels a little bit easier, a little bit more fluid. That's it, to let the knees tilt from side to side when we've released a little bit of tension through the upper back. Good. Okay, we're going to do another movement for the upper body. So again, if you like, you can keep your knees bent, or if it's comfortable, lengthen your legs out, because it's easier just to leave your legs sort of uninvolved if they're long on the floor. If you keep your knees bent, you've just got to focus a little bit more to not let them move. Now, this time, take your arms up towards the ceiling over your chest and touch your palms together in prayer pose. So you've made a triangle with your arms. You want to keep your elbows straight and your hands stuck together. And you're going to do exactly the same movement. So you've made a triangle. You're going to start to rock your triangle to the right and to the left, letting your head rock in the same direction. That's it. And not letting your elbows bend. So I find this movement can be a bit stronger in my upper back. So sometimes if I'm feeling particularly tight, it might almost verge on being painful. So if that's the case, you can just keep doing really little movement. If it's not painful, that's great. Just rocking from side to side, letting the head and the arms move to the right and to the left. And we're just giving ourselves a sort of massage across the upper back. Good. So just in your own time, a couple more times, rocking from side to side, trying to find a comfortable rhythmic movement, something you could even enjoy. Very nice. And then release your arms. Let the arms come to rest on the floor or on the front of your body. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then once more, bending your knees, standing your feet on the floor, coming back to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. Seeing how that feels good. And then pause in the middle just for a moment and cross your arms over your chest. That's it. So it's like you're giving yourself a hug. And now start to rock your knees, your elbows, and your head all to the same side. So over to the right and then over to the left. That's it. So you're rocking across the back of your body. That's nice. And again, that's lovely. So it can be a small movement, it can be a large movement. Do something that feels comfortable for you. If you feel that you're rocking onto your hands, you can always sort of slide the hands out away from the fingers out away from your body on the floor. If you feel like you're crushing your fingers a bit. Good. Just do this a couple more times. And then just pause on your back for a moment, and you could change the cross of your arms. And just have a cycle of breath or two where you're just, on your back and you're feeling the movement of your breath through your body. Feeling your breath come in, feeling your breath leave you. And just see how is it to bring your attention to your breathing now that we've moved a bit. And throughout this class today, we're going to be bringing our attention to our breath. Actually, sometimes in, for example, some standing balances. And just, how is it to make our breath our focus for the moment? And then come back to rocking again. So just as you were, keeping your arms crossed with the other arm on top, rocking from side to side. And that's nice. And eventually you're going to rock all the way over onto one side and have a few breaths on that side. And from there, we're going to come up into standing. So you can contemplate that prospect while you're lying on your side. You don't have to do anything too dramatic. So we're going to come into standing. We're going to do some more, I suppose, what I think of as loosening up movements before we, so just a bit more of, I've still got my record class note written over my screen. So yes, coming coming into standing. So nothing too dramatic, a bit more loosening up, just getting ourselves moving. And so when you've arrived in standing, you can take it quite easy. You can be quite lazy and languid with this. We're going to do sort of nice, loose, easy swinging twist. And so just before class, I was thinking about the Easter holidays and thinking, oh, if it's warm, I might do a few classes in my garden. And we'll be allowed to, I think, meet people in our gardens, 6 people. So yeah, I hope I'm not being over ambitious about what the weather could be like. Could be lovely. So swinging your arms, letting your arms slap onto your bodies, feeling your whole body in movement. And still here a sense, we've done some twisty things on our backs, which hopefully have got rid of a bit of tightness, a bit of creakiness, but just noticing how your body feels in standing and just carrying on working in a way that's helpful for you. So we're going to let this go. We're going to settle down with our feet a little distance apart. And we're going to take our arms up and just do a little bit of reaching up into one arm and then the other. And you can, if you prefer, I know some of you prefer, you can take one arm up and the other arm comes down. So I don't really mind whether you prefer keeping both arms up and reaching from side to side, or, you know, one arm up, the other arm down. So, for some of us, having our arms up is quite a challenging place to be. So don't feel that you need to keep them up unnecessarily. Just a bit of this feeling long through the sides of the body. And then we'll take this into a very easy forward bend, and we'll do a little bit more of this reaching up through the arms. So if we're coming into an easy forward bend, it might be quite nice as you go forwards just to come sort of part way. So you're resting your elbows on your thighs, you let your head go, you check in with your lower back, see how everything feels. And it might be you stay here, and it might be that you feel ready to release your arms to the floor. And wherever you are, you're letting your head go. You're feeling the back, your sort of lower back rounding out, lengthening, and you're having a couple of breaths. And it might be that we find it helpful to have those big sighing breaths. I tend to in a forward bend, even on my own. So maybe another cycle or two of breath, and then we'll be rolling back up into standing. So coming up on an exhalation, either walking your hands up the fronts of your legs or sinking into your heels and rolling up. And so I was going to suggest this time when we bring our arms up that we reach up through one arm and we catch the other hand around that wrist. But again, if you prefer just taking one arm up, you could just focus on taking one arm up and over and staying there for a couple of breaths. So either catching one hand around the wrist, sort of drawing yourself up and over if you like that one, or just taking one arm up. And it's always interesting, I find, to try and breathe in these side lengthening movements. So do swap arms. You can always shake your arms out before you do the other side. And then what's it like to have a couple of breaths here? It's not always that easy to breathe when our arms are up, when we're lengthening through one side of the body. And then when you're ready to come down, you're going to come back into a second forward bend and see how that feels. So again, it might be that you'd like to rest your elbows on your thighs. It's probably nice to have your knees bent, whatever you're doing. So even if you're going to release your arms to the floor, you might like to have your knees quite bent. It might be that you bend your knees so much your chest comes close to your thighs. So it's quite soft and easy. And hopefully relaxing, good. And you have a couple of cycles of breath down there, either big sighing breaths or just quieter breaths if you prefer. And as we exhale, that's when we can let ourselves sort of be floppy and loose and soft. And also when we exhale, that would be the time to come up, sinking into the heels, rolling up, or walking the hands up the fronts of the legs. Just reminding myself of what we're doing. Yes, so maybe when you've come up, give your legs a shake out and then settle back down with your feet a little distance apart and bring your hands into prayer pose in front of you. So we're carrying on with a few sort of more arm swinging type things now. So from here, you're going to let a breath come in. And as you exhale, you're going to take your arms out to the down and up, and then swing your arms out to the sides and cross them in front of your body. So just make sure if you're hitting a wall, turn around so that you're not hitting a wall. And as I do this, I'm crossing one arm and then the other in front of me. And in a moment, I'd like you to swing your arms so that you have your right arm on top and you're giving yourself a hug, like we did on our backs. You don't need to kneel down. I'm just coming a little bit nearer. Good. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears and then come on into your eagle arms, as long as that feels okay for you. Let your shoulders drop down. You could just a couple of times maybe draw a little circle with your elbows. A couple of times one direction, a couple of times the other direction. And then we're going to take this into a forward bend. And I tend to like to take my feet a little bit wider apart. But that's up to you. You don't have to do that. So we're going to let a breath come in. We're going to sink into our heels, exhale, come into a forward bend here. And whenever you like, you can release your arms. I'm sorry, I'm going to darken my screen and it doesn't seem to be brightening up. Maybe in a moment. Good, yes. So whenever you like, you can release your arms. You can keep them in eagle arms, or you can undo that cross and let your arms flop down to the floor. And before you come back up, at that point, I would release your arms. So maybe with a big exhalation, let the arms go, let the arms hang. And then as you exhale, sinking into your heels, walking your hands up the front of your legs or rolling up into standing. Good. And give your legs a little shake out. And settle back down, feet a little distance apart on your mat. Bring your hands back into prayer pose. So let a breath come in. As you exhale, you're going to take your arms down and then up. And then you're going to let your arms swing in front of you and cross them. That's it. In front of you. I'm just going to see if it gets a bit better if I turn this light on. Dazzle everyone. It might make me a little bit less that I'm disappearing into the shadows. Good. So swinging your arms, crossing them in front of you. And this time you're going to swing your arms so that you give yourself a hug with your left arm on top. Drop your shoulders down away from your ears. Have a breath or two here. And then on into your eagle arms. And again, like we did on the other side, you could just a couple of times draw a small circle with your elbows, going one direction, going the other direction. And then we'll take this into a forward bend. And like on the other side, if you want to take your feet a bit wider apart, if that's helpful for you, and then as you exhale, sinking into your heels, folding forwards, using that weight of your crossed arms to help lengthen out your back a little bit. That's very nice. You can bend your knees as much as you like, and whenever you want to release your arms to the floor, then go ahead and do so. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Good. And again, coming up on an exhalation, sinking down into your heels, rolling up into standing. Good. We've got another arm swing. I'm just checking that, yes, this is, yes. So we're going to do a bit more arm swinging. This time we're going to be swinging our arms sort of up and back. And I'm going to go side on because you could, if it feels comfortable, when you bring your arms up, you could let yourself go into the sort of beginnings of a standing back arch. And just whatever's comfortable. And so I'm starting to bend my knees as I'm swinging my arms back. And you could start to take it down into a forward bend if that's comfortable for you. So just make sure whatever feels comfortable for your lower back. So we can be in a little bit of a standing back arch. We can go down into a forward bend. But, you know, just yeah, be mindful. So if you go forwards and you need to rest your elbows on your thighs, that's fine. And then eventually we'll stay down in the forward bend and we'll drop down into a squat, which would be nice for the lower back. So you can back arch, forward bend, carry on bending your knees and drop down into a squat. And it's fine if your heels come up. Yeah, so just letting your lower back lengthen out a little bit in a squat. Good. And then from our squat, we'll reverse this movement. So we'll start to send our heels down and our sit bones up. So come back into a forward bend and roll up into standing. And if that movement was okay, you can try a similar thing. So maybe there's a bit less of a back arch now, but we take our feet a bit wider apart. So I've got my feet as wide as the narrow edge of my mat. I'm taking my arms up and then I'm swinging my hands down in between. And I'm bending my knees quite a lot, swinging my arms down in between my knees. But again, just do what feels okay for you, for your lower back. And whenever you've had enough, just stay in the forward bend. So stay releasing forwards, letting your head go, letting your arms go. And then sinking down into your heels, rolling up into standing. And we're just going to settle in standing. So I'm going to turn my heating off because it's suddenly gone boiling. So there's probably all that swinging of my arms around. It's also got lights, thank goodness. So we're just going to come into a very quiet standing balance. So come back into standing, feet a smaller distance apart. So what I used to call hip width, and I try not to say that now. So look at your feet and then close your eyes for a moment in standing. Just do a little bit of swaying from side to side. So feeling your weight rock over one leg and foot and the other. And so this in itself can just be a very sort of settling, calming feeling. This feeling of rocking our weight from side to side, to feeling supported by one leg and foot. And by doing this, I'd just like you to decide which leg and foot you're going to stand on first for your standing balance. So we're going to open our eyes. Whichever foot you've chosen to stand on, bring that hand onto your breastbone. And you're going to shift your weight towards your standing foot. And we're going to do this one when we catch the top of the other foot or the trouser leg. And we're just going to keep it very quiet. And then in a moment, we're going to explore some other variations of this pose. But for the moment, just stay here and gather your attention into your breathing. Can you stay here and feel 2 or 3 cycles of breath? So make your breathing your focus. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. Lovely, very nice. And so come down, have a little shake out. And we've got the hand in this point on our chest, this point which is known as Karmanadi, this point between the throat and the heart, which is a place that can help us feel steady. So we're going to do the other side. You're going to bring the other hand onto your breastbone and you're going to be shifting your weight onto the other foot, catching the top of the foot or the trouser leg of the leg we just stood on. And see how it feels to settle here. And so there's always the sort of little bits of settling to start with. If you feel quite unsteady on this side, you can move near to a wall or some other support. And then just see, how does it feel to gather your attention into your breathing, to feel 2 or 3 cycles of breath moving through you. So feel the breath coming in, feel the breath leaving you. And then come down and have a little shake out. So we're just going to come and do a sort of few dog pose, I don't know, dog pose lunge type things, and then come back to some more balancing. So come towards the back of your mat and settle down and bring your hands into prayer pose. So we're going to be in a moment going down through a forward bend, going into dog, back into a forward bend and down through squat. I'll talk you through it, but just so you know where you're going. So settle for a moment, feel the contact of your footprints on the floor, feel the contact of your palms, feel the movement of your breath through your body. Let a breath come in, and as you exhale, take your arms down and then up. Feel long and tall as you receive an in-breath, and then you can curl round down into a forward bend. Then have a couple of breaths in your forward bend, just seeing how it feels now. And then from your forward bend, big handprints on the floor, you're going to walk forwards into dog pose. And just, see how it feels to arrive in this dog pose. You can be bending one knee, you can be bending the other knee. Might be that you can settle in dog and have a couple of breaths. But keep moving if that's what you need to do. So really, see how your dog pose feels and do what feels helpful for your body, what you feel drawn to doing. Whether it's focusing on your breathing or moving. And from dog, we're then going to walk our hands back in towards our feet. So you come back into a forward bend. So let all of the weight arrive in your feet. And then from your forward bend, you're going to start to bend your knees. So we come down into another squat. And just let your knees bend forwards over your feet. That's good. And it's fine if your heels come up. And in fact, we're going to be from our squat rolling forwards through the tops of our feet, letting our knees come onto the ground and walking our hands forwards. And from here, maybe just settle with your shoulders over your wrists and lengthen each leg out behind you and turn. So tuck your toes under in one leg, stretching through the heel, lengthen your leg out behind you from hands and knees. And just see if you can feel supported here through your arms with your wrists under your shoulders, because we are then going to go on into plank pose. So just make sure that your hands are in a place where it feels that you can be well supported through your arms. And exactly the same way, into plank, lengthen one leg back behind you, tuck your toes under, add the other leg in. And then see how it feels to be in plank. And can you feel a few cycles of breath move through you? So our breathing might feel a bit more constrained in plank pose, but can we still breathe? Would be helpful. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave us. Do come down whenever you've had enough, but sometimes if we focus on the breathing, we can stay there a little bit longer. Come down, you could just sit back over your heels for a moment or come into up kneeling and shake your hands out. Bring the backs of your hands together. And then we're going to come on into lunge. So you're going to bring your fingertips back onto the floor, step 1 foot forwards. And tuck the toes under. In the other leg, walk that leg back behind you. So we're coming to this feeling of starting to open and lengthen a bit through the front of the body. And maybe we had a sense of how the front of our body felt when we were doing those sort of mini standing back arches, when we caught our foot in that standing balance. But we're thinking a bit more specifically, or feeling a bit more specifically about this. Can we start to open a little bit through the pelvis? May just don't overdo this, because it can feel quite sore there. Good. So just another couple of breaths on this side. Whenever you've had enough, you might want to stay longer in your lunge, Are we all in the lunge, Lynn? I can't quite see. Yes, you have got your foot stepped forwards. And then you're going to untuck your back toes, and you're going to do this sort of easing back out of lunge movement where your chest stays close to your thigh and you look back behind you. Then your back comes into sort of a long, gentle curve. And have a couple of breaths there. And then let's swap our feet over in lunge. So on hands and knees, bring the foot that was forwards back and bring the other foot forwards between your hands. And then it might well be that you need to tuck your back toes under, walk that back foot away a bit more. So we're trying to end up that we've got our front knee over our front heel. We can feel very well planted and supported through that front leg. Your back toes can be tucked under or flat, whatever feels better. And again, we're giving the weight of our pelvis to the floor. We're feeling that opening through the front of the back leg thigh, the front of the pelvis, the groin. We might be using our big sighing breath here if it's all feeling a bit intense. Yes, and it's really interesting seeing you. So people doing different things. So some of you might find that you like to come up a bit in your lunge. You might not like to do that today. I don't really, I find it too much. Yeah, we are working with these quite deep, strong muscles here. And yeah, just find a place where you can be. You can feel the movement's quite intense, but you're not overdoing it. And then when you're ready, you'll ease out. So untucking your back foot, keeping your chest close to your thigh. Do your sort of easing back out of your lunge, looking back behind you. Feeling your spine in this sort of long, gentle curve. And then coming onto hands and knees. And we're going to move into a dog pose from hands and knees and see how that feels. And maybe just, if it's possible, have a few quiet breaths in dog, if that feels right once we're there. So big handprints on the floor, tucking the toes under. As you exhale, rock your hips back over your heels. Picking your knees up off the ground, ending up in dog. Seeing how it feels. So it might be that I often find when I'm in dog, at least to start with, I want to have a couple of big sighing breaths. I want to bend my knees, one knee, both knees. And then maybe after that, I'm a bit better able to just sort of settle and focus on feeling the movement of my breath through my body. So how does it feel in dog when you feel your in-breath coming in, the widening of the in-breath? And how does it feel in dog as you exhale? Can you soften a little bit? So you can have another couple of cycles of breath if you like, but whenever you're ready to come down, come and fold down into child pose. Very nice. And when we end up in child pose, this is a place where, maybe we can focus more easily on the sort of quiet feeling of not doing anything to our breath, but being close to our breath, to feeling the movement of our breath through us, but without doing anything to our breathing. And just see how it is to settle in child pose with your focus, with your awareness, with your breath. But perhaps in a sort of quieter, more passive way. Maybe feeling one or two more cycles of breath moving through you. And from child, you can come back up onto hands and knees. And in a moment, we're going to go through another dog pose and back into standing. But before we do so, I thought you might like just briefly to visit your cat movements and your tail wagging movements on hands and knees, which we often do. much earlier on in class than this. So how does it feel to be on hands and knees, to let your back round to the ceiling, to let your spine dip down to the floor? See how these movements feel. And also, if you like, how does it feel to do a little bit of imagining you have a tail and wagging your tail from side to side? And then whenever you're ready, we're going to go back into dog pose, a breath or two in dog, and then from dog into a forward bend and rolling back up into standing. So you can, in your own time, rocking your hips back over your heels into dog pose. See how it feels. Each time we come into dog pose, maybe we're able to just be a little bit sort of quieter, more settled, more comfortable in dog. From dog pose, you can then start to walk your hands in towards your feet. So end up in your forward bend. Have a breath or two there. Good. And from your forward bend, rolling back up into standing. Lovely. So we're going to come back to the balance we were doing and do a couple of different variations. And I suppose the first one I was thinking is more about movement, and the second one we do is going to be more about sort of can we focus in on our breathing. So I'm going side on, and I think I'll talk you through this and we'll see how we get on, rather than me showing you. So just decide which foot you're going to stand on again. It might be the same foot you started with before. And we're going to come back into that same position. So hand on the breastbone, shifting our weight into our standing foot, catching the top of the other foot. So come back to where we were a moment ago. And then from here, if you feel steady, so let your knee drop towards the floor. And if you feel steady, you're going to let the hand that was on your breastbone grow up towards the ceiling. So we're feeling quite long and tall here, letting the knee drop down, growing up through the fingertips. And then with that arm, we're going to take that arm out to the side in a bit of a circle and bring it back to catch the foot. So we've got both hands catching onto our foot now. And that might be far enough, but you could also see, what's it like then? Can you move your foot a bit further away from your bottom, which can be quite a big stretch through the front of your thigh, but also through the fronts of your shoulders. Good. And it might feel that you can't go anywhere at all there, because we do sort of really bump up against some tight places. Good. Come down, have a little shake out. Just think how much easier side 2 is going to be as you know exactly what you're doing now. And settle yourself down. So again, we're going to be standing on the other foot. So bring that hand onto your breastbone. Start to shift your weight into your foot to side 2. Catch the top of the other foot. And let yourself settle here for a couple of breaths. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then you can let your hand come from your breastbone, let that arm grow up towards the ceiling. You're feeling long and tall. So your bent knees dropping towards the floor. You feel the heel of the other foot on the floor. Feel yourself long and tall. And then you're going to take that arm sort of out to the side in a big circle and reach back to catch onto your foot. So both lots of fingers are holding onto your foot. And then is there a possibility of moving that foot further back away from your bottom? And it might feel that there's not a huge amount of movement happening. Let's see. And how does it feel in the fronts of the shoulders? So we're sort of quite a big stretch with the shoulders. Yes, it might start to challenge our balance a little bit as well. Good. And then come down and have a little shake out. And we're going to go back into the same starting point, but do something different. And maybe this time I'll just show you as a reminder. So we're going to come back to a hand on the breastbone, catching the top of the foot. And then this time, you're going to do a larger movement where you're sort of reaching forwards with your foot and backwards, but yeah, backwards with your foot, forwards with your arm. You might move in and out a couple of times, but then I'd like you to see, could you stay there and have 3 cycles of breath in this quite sort of, what I say, in this sort of quite a big movement, yeah? So let's see how it feels on side 1. So start with your hand on your breastbone, that sort of reassuring place. Let your weight shift into your foot. So we're coming to the same starting point, holding the top of the foot, the hand on the breastbone. But then from here, we're exploring, where can we go to if we reach forwards with our arm and backwards with our foot? It's fine to let your pelvis tilt. You might try this possibly a couple of times. I often find that maybe the second time I come into a place, then maybe I feel I'm in a place where I could stay and breathe. So the most important thing is that you feel comfortable. You feel that you're enjoying this sort of larger movement. And then what's it like here to focus on your breathing? To feel the breath come in, to feel the breath leave you. And yes, obviously sometimes we don't have that opportunity to stay for 3 cycles of breath. We may lose our balance. The cat is causing havoc in the kitchen, stealing food. Yes. So remember, when we come on to side 2, really anywhere from here, anywhere that you want to go is fine. And it might be, oh, I'm wobbling around. It might be that a couple of times you come into this movement if you want to sort of, you know, roll your pelvis. All of these things are fine. Just finding a place where it feels enjoyable and you can stay there and breathe. So side 2, if you're not there already, hand on your breastbone, shifting your weight into the second foot. And from this sort of settled center place, then where can we move in terms of taking our leg and foot back, in terms of reaching forwards? And as we reach forwards, it might be that we tilt forwards a bit, and that's absolutely fine. We might come in and out of that movement, and then can we find a place where we could feel the movement of our breath? Feeling the breath coming in, feeling the breath leaving. And it's really nice, I think, in this, if you're still there, to really feel that expansion of your in-breath. In a sort of, because it's an expansive, very nice, because it's an expansive sort of place to be. Good, well done everyone, very nice. Yes, Sarah, good, a bit of sort of swinging your arms around. It's good, well done. Yeah, a little bit of shaking out, swinging your arms. We're going to now make our way down, and we're going to do a few sort of sitting type things. So I'd like you to, through one last squat, I'm facing the long edge of my mat, you don't have to. We're going to go down through a squat, and then we're going to take our weight back on our hands and lengthen our legs out. So feet a little distance apart, rolling down into a forward bend. Having a couple of breaths. If you go into your forward bend and it feels really nice, because we've done quite a few, that looks really lovely actually. And of course, enjoy that chance to be in the forward bend. If you're someone who, you know, squat is really helpful for your lower back, then heading on into your squat. It's fine if your heels come up. If you've got a cushion or a book nearby, you can always pop something under your heels. It's also fine if they come up. And so if you want to have a few more breaths in squat, do so. From here, you're going to bring your hands back onto the floor behind you so you can gently lower your bottom down. Yes, that most elegant of movements. And then we're going to lengthen, take our legs long and wide. So I suppose we're going to be moving in a little bit of a sequence here. And we'll come back. We're not going to stay very long here, but we will. I know some of you quite like this, Sally, I'm looking at you. We will stay here a little bit longer at the end of the sequence. So to start with, you're going to lean back on your arms and your hands, and you're going to move your feet into cobbler pose without just trying to moving your legs, not using your hands to move your feet in. So can you slide your feet in? Good. Touch the soles of your feet together. Very nice. And then you could walk your hands in a little bit, just sort of see how it feels to be in a cobbler pose. And again, if this is something you like, you'll get a bit of a chance to stay here longer later on. And from here, we're going to come into pinwheels. So you're going to let one knee come on top of the other knee, and you're going to slide this top leg back. Do a little bit of circling here. So a little bit of circling in pinwheel, and then I thought we would just settle with a few quiet breaths in our pinwheel forward bend, as we've been moving quite a lot. And I just always find this is I find it quite a helpful sort of quiet place to settle. So turn your body towards this knee and thigh that's turned out to the side, and just fold forwards over that leg. And I think what we might do here is have a couple of buzzing breaths just to really encourage ourselves to settle down. So it could be elbows on the floor, you could be resting your head in your hands or on the back of your hands, just depending wherever you get to. It is quite nice if your elbows touch the floor to then rest your head, your forehead into your hands. So let a breath come in. Let's have another cycle of buzzing breath. So letting a breath come in, buzzing with our exhalation. And then slowly walk your hands back in towards you. And we're going to lean on to, so this knee that we just folded over, this thigh we just folded over, we're going to lean onto that arm. So we're very much letting our weight come into this leg, and we probably feel that the other buttock has come off the floor, which is fine. And we're going to start this little sort of easy twisting, turning movement. So at the moment, I was drawing a circle from my back toes towards this arm I'm leaning on. In quite an easy way. We can start to make it a slightly bigger movement, and we can slap our hand onto the back of our shoulder. Yeah? So we're still doing this sort of turning, twisting movement, bringing the hand onto the back of the shoulder. Hopefully quite sort of easy and comfortable. And then we can come on into this lovely movement where we open through the front of the body. So if we keep our hand on the back of our shoulder, sink down in that to that supporting arm and let the pelvis come up. And you can reach up towards the ceiling with your fingertips, and you can also look up. And then you reverse that movement, come back down, hand back onto your shoulder, maybe all the way out of your twist. So again, we'll do this 3 times, hand onto the shoulder, sinking down through the arm, reaching up towards the ceiling, feeling this sort of lovely opening through the front of the body, and then back down again. Good. So there's number one thing in this is just to, hopefully you can find a movement that feels sort of enjoyable and sort of fluid, and that you're opening through the front of your body, but you're not forcing anything too much. Very nice. Good. Come back down. If you're desperate to do it once more, do it once more. Otherwise, come back into your forward bend, and we'll move on to side 2 in a moment. But yes, if you do want to do it again. Very nice. And when you come back into that forward bend, just sort of settle there quietly for 2 or 3 cycles of breath. Just how is it to be quiet? And again, that feeling of bringing your attention close to your breathing. And we can walk the hands in towards us. Lean back on your hands, and again lengthen both legs out, so you can take your legs long and wide again. And again, we won't stay here too long this moment, but we're just, you know, nice for the knees, nice for the legs. Lean back on your arms as much as you like. You can let your legs roll a little bit or shake them a little bit so they feel quite settled on the ground. If you like, you can walk your hands in towards you. If you're someone who's desperate to bring your hands in front of you. So I've been doing this one quite a lot because of something, I'm trying to start running again, and my left knee is a bit grumbly. This always makes it feel better. Okay, so again, from here, lean back onto your hands if you started to lean forwards, and see if you can slide your feet into cobbler pose without using your hands. And can you bring the soles or the outside edges of your feet to touch? And again, then you can walk into cobbler pose a little bit. You could perhaps just do a little bit of rocking from side to side. Again, I think there'd be time to stay here a little bit longer in a moment. Very nice. And then we'll move on to side 2 of pinwheels. So let your knee come over on top of your other knee. So come into the side sitting position, and then slide your top leg back. And come to a bit of circling here. So see how it feels on side 2. And I think I'm hoping that you've all ended up doing your easier side as side 1. Which is a good thing, is I haven't said lefts and rights. But this is certainly for me a more difficult side, second side. So like we did on the other side, we're going to be coming into our forward bend, doing a couple of cycles of buzzing breath, then coming on into that sort of twisting, opening out through the front of the body movement, otherwise known as rock star. So folding over your front leg. And letting a breath come in as you exhale, making your buzzing sound. And again, let another breath come in, and we'll make our buzzing sound on our exhalation. And then walking your hands in towards you, coming back upright again. And then remember, we're leaning onto the same arm as the leg we just folded over. And we're very much letting our weight shift onto this side of our body. So we probably feel this buttock has come off the floor. And as we start to do this little turning movement, we're letting the whole of our body respond to this. So as I'm turning towards my supporting arm, I'm feeling that my pelvis is coming along with me. Yeah, so we're not trying to. So in some twists, we try to sort of not move perhaps our lower body and move our upper body, but we're not doing that now. We're just letting the whole body come along. So we can then start to slap our hands onto the back of our shoulder. And then we can see how it feels to keep the hand there, to lean down more into our supporting arm, to let the pelvis come up. Take our fingertips up towards the ceiling, to look up towards the ceiling, and then to reverse that movement, come back down. Hand onto the shoulder all the way down. We'll do that a couple more times. So hand onto the shoulder, leaning into that supporting arm, opening out through the front of our body. Hopefully finding a movement that feels spring-like. So I always think these movements where we open through the front of the body they're quite uplifting. They're sort of the opposite of all the sort of huddling up that we've been doing in the winter. So do this 3 or 4 times. I've already managed to lose count, unsurprisingly. And then when you feel you've had enough, then it's coming back for a couple of breaths into your forward bend. So just resting down, letting the back of your body, your lower back, the back of your neck, letting all of those parts of the spine just sort of lengthen and soften. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. So walking your hands in towards you. And this is where, so it may be leaning back onto your hands, lengthening your legs out for a moment, but then this is where you've just got a little bit of a choice. So we're going to have a few breaths before we lie down in sitting, and you can either choose to have your legs long and wide, or you can choose to be in cobbler pose. And if you're in cobbler pose, I think it may be sort of playing around with where you have your feet so that you could possibly come into a bit of a forward bend. And sometimes that's having the feet a bit further forwards, but it's not necessarily. When I was doing this yesterday, I took my feet too far forwards. I needed to bring them back in a bit. So I think just choose whatever feels better for you in terms of legs being long or coming into cobbler pose. And obviously these poses need quite a lot of time for us to be settled here. So yes, any little movements you can do. So if your legs are long and wide, I sometimes like to do a bit of sort of rocking from side to side. And I think you can do the same thing in cobbler pose. You can do a bit of sort of, yeah, just little movements that help us to settle. And remember, if we are going to go forwards, which we don't have to, we want to feel that our pelvis, both in cobbler pose and in this wide one, that our pelvis is moving forwards. So all of it, yeah, as well as our spine. So you could try from, doing some little sort of side to side rocking movements. Then in your cobbler pose or in your wide leg, you could say, okay, what's it like to, what happens if I think about folding forwards for a breath or two? And it might be that you can, still rock a little bit there, you can still feel comfortable. Or it might be that you want to come back up again. It might even be that you want to change. You think, okay, I'll come on into cobbler pose or I'll lengthen my legs out. So you can come up, you can lean back, you can come forwards again. And just, see what feels right for you now. If it's possible to sort of settle somewhere quietly and to feel 2 or 3 cycles of breath, that would be lovely. But if it isn't, then do keep moving. So just, you can settle down. How does it feel if you feel your breath coming in? How does it feel to feel your breath leaving? If you feel that you can be quiet with another cycle or 2 of breath, then do that. But again, also if you feel that you need to sort of move, rock, sway a little bit, that's also fine. The most important thing is we carry on sort of softening, releasing. We don't start to get fixed and tense and held. So we're going to be in a moment lying down. If you are still comfortable in sitting and want to try and have another cycle or 2 of breath there, you can do. Otherwise, making your way onto your back. And I think we'll just do come back to perhaps just some very quiet sort of rocking movements. And then I just want us to have a little bit of time just settling with our breathing. So yeah, so lie down onto your backs, and I think that's nice. When you arrive on your back, just start by doing whatever you feel drawn to do, and it might be nothing, which is good. Anything's good. So yes, arrive on your back and just, yeah, what do you want to do? And do it. Lovely. Definitely, yes, take another moment or two to carry on doing whatever it is you wanted to do, what you felt drawn to doing. And then I'd like you to settle down with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And we're just going to do a couple of very simple movements. And do put a blanket over you if you like. So perhaps have a couple of big sighing breaths and just really let yourself settle. And come to feeling the weight of your head on the floor. And then that lovely movement where we let our head roll from side to side. That's it, just very sort of lazily, very languidly letting the head roll from side to side. And as we do so, really feeling the floor beneath the back of our head and that changing contact of the back of the head on the floor. And from doing that, find a comfortable place to settle the back of the head on the floor. And then let your attention travel down to feeling the back of your pelvis on the floor, to feeling the soles of your feet on the ground. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And as you do so, notice how the contact of the back of your pelvis on the floor changes. So the weight rocks side to side across the back of your pelvis. And also how the weight shifts across the soles of your feet. Oh, lovely to see Chile there, Sharon. Very nice. So just a few more times, let the knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then we'll settle down, either knees bent or legs long. And it's up to you now. I mean, I like to bring my hands onto the front of the body, the front of my body, just to really help me gather my attention to my breathing. And I also find it quite sort of quietening and soothing. But you can, of course, rest your arms by your sides. And again, have a couple of big sighing breaths. Then just letting your breathing find its own rhythm. And let your attention rest with the movement of your breath through your body, but in a very sort of soft, relaxed, easy way. So you're not trying to block anything else out. You can also be aware of other sensations in your body. You can be aware of the points of your body in contact with the ground. Be aware of the air on your skin, noises around, presence of other people or animals. And I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. So it is no rush. I'm just aware that time has sort of moved on. I had all these other things we were going to do lying down, but I'm very not judged well today, time-wise. I'm going to ring it 3 times. So if you can, if you've got the time, carry on lying till we reach the end of the 3rd sound. So thank you, everyone. Do carry on lying down if you don't have to move. You don't need to get up.